Hello guys, we are back with another Leetcode problem. Today is day 16 of February. Let's see the today's problem. And problem is the swap nodes in pairs. It's a medium question and it's a fall into category of highly like. So let's directly dive into the question. What's actually question asked? So you have a given a linked list, swap every two adjacent nodes and return its heads. You have to must solve the problem without modifying the values in the list node. That is, only node themselves may be changed. Okay, so let's little bit more understand with using this example one. You have given this linked list maybe, and what's your duty? You have to swap every two adjacent nodes. So in that case you swap 2 and 1 node, and you swap 3 and 4 nodes, and try to make this node linked list like this: 2 1 4 3. So that's your output. You have to return it. So how can we do that? So for solving this thing, uh, what we do, we just try to make a new linked list with using a dummy method. It's a one of the easiest method which I like most. Let's me taught you how can I do that with using a dummy linked list. So let's dive into the code, then you understand what I'm actually trying to explain. So you have a give, let's make a dummy node, list node. Let's name it dummy. New list node. Let's assign with -1 and list node star. We needed a dummy as well as we needed a h1, because we have needed two pointer more, one pointing always here and one pointing to adjacent of this h1. We needed two pointer in every time, so that's why I'll just try to make it here head, and let's point, it's a point, yeah, and made it another one. It's a, let's name it h2. So that's it. So what's my duty actually? Let me resize my id and little bit doing about, okay, that's fine. So what's my duty? First and foremost, I have to check if my this head one h1, if my h1 is null, in that case I have written my head. Or if my h1 next, if my h1 next is null, what does it mean? It means it contain only single element. In that case I didn't care about and return that, reverse that thing. I have to just return in this case. So in that case I'll just return it my head, no needed to check it. That's all about that. If not the case, it means it contain more than 2, it contain more than 1. In that case I have to reverse my linked list and try to swap the linked list adjacent pairs. So for swapping the adjacent pair, what's my duty? I'll just make, if my h1, same condition, my h1 next, both are not null, in that case I am doing some computation. What's that computation? Let me tell you. First and foremost, I didn't enhance my h1 pointing here, but my h2 is not pointing anywhere. So I have to just my h2 is going to point my h1 next adjacent. So my h2 is going to point my h1 next. It makes some sense. Now my h1 is pointing here, my h2 is pointing here. My next duty is that my d next pointing somewhere else because it's a new linked list. So let's make it, it's here, and I have to this dummy this d next pointing here because I want to this my h2 is my first element in my linked list, then my h1 is my second link element. So what I'm my duty, my d next is going to point the h2. Okay, after pointing the h2, what's my duty? I have to enhance my d to h2. So I increase my pointer to h2. After increasing my pointer to h2, what's my duty? I have to enhance my h2 to the next. After enhancing my, now my h2 is pointing here. Okay, let me tell you after that why I'm doing this. Let just forget that part. Why I'm enhancing my h2 next. Okay, my d is pointing right now here. So what's my duty? I have to insert this element. So how can I insert this? I insert this in the using d next is going to point h1 because my h1 is currently pointing here. So it makes some sense. After pointing this, what's my duty? I have to enhance my d to h1. Sorry. Now my h1 is pointing here. Now my d is pointing here. My h1 is also here. I have to make this link not pointing here. My link is going to pointing here. So for doing this, what I'm going to do, my h1 is now pointing to h2 the next. Why I'm doing the sorry, my h1 next, my link of this h1 is going to point h2. Now my h1 next link is going to point here, and after pointing here, what's my duty? My duty is I have to move my h1 to d sorry, my h1 to h2. That's all about that. Now my h1 is pointing here, my h2 is also pointing here. h2 is pointing somewhere else, it doesn't matter because I initialize with h2 to h1 next, so no need to worry about that. Now my h2 is pointing here. Okay, my h1 is pointing here. This link is a reverse, and that's it, guys. And it's doing its own job. If this loop is going to break, if my h1 is null or my h1 next is null. In that case, is going to break, and in that case, what I'm going to do, I have to return my new linked list, very new linked list, dummy next. And that's it, guys. Let's run this code, and it's accepted. Let's submit this code, guys. And it's accepted. So if you have any doubt, let me know in the comment section. I resolve your doubt as soon as possible. Until then, keep grinding.